All right. You can see my VS Code, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at this. There's two parts to this. Part one is a function that has one param and does something with that one param. For instance, I have this log thing. I'm just kind of being generic with the name. It takes a thing and it just logs it. My for each function takes a function that needs to have one parameter, because what the for each is going to do. It's going to go through each thing and it's going to call this function on each of my items in the array. So this is, part two, call log thing on each thing in the array. We can also write as a, that's the Zoom video, okay. You can write as a anonymous, I'm just going to call this unnamed function. Now, I think part of the thing that gets so confusing about this is the syntax. Log thing is just a variable, right? And it's a variable that's holding a function. Like if down here I had like a, if I had a const, times by 2. It just took some number and it just, returned. I'll just do a console.log in here. Num times 2. I have this times by 2 function. I'm going to call it, I can just pass it a number, a direct number, right? Or I could store a number to a variable. And I could pass that there, right? So I could have a variable that's storing a number, and I could pass it to the function, or I could just pass a direct number to it. Does that make sense? This is like, I'm trying to make this really, really simple. And like if I run this, we have 8, 12, and 12. So my for each is just like my times by 2. We give it we just give it one argument, which instead of a number happens to be a function. So I can store that function to a variable, or like I did here where I just passed the number, I can just directly pass the function. So what I did, I just copied this because this is the function, and I threw that in there. So, and let me just maybe write it out. So this wants a function. Boom. There's my function as the first argument. Now this is called a unnamed or a anonymous function because it does not have a name. It's not like stored to a variable. This function does have a name because I'm setting it equal to this variable log thing. But I need to give it a function that takes, that has in its definition a parameter. And then I could say console.log item. I probably want to be a little, instead of calling this item, since I'm going through an array of numbers, why don't I just call that num? Because that's a little more descriptive than num or thing. But you see how this log thing function and this function that does not have a name do the exact same thing? They have a parameter and then they log that parameter. And these would do the exact, those are the same. So this would be the same behavior. Or I'll just say this like works the same. I'm going to get rid of this demo. But does that, I really, there's a lot of these, like there's more of these methods. There's not just the for each, there's going to be a map, there's going to be a filter, there's going to be a reduce, there's a find. So this is a concept you really, really want to wrap your head around. And I think it's one that students struggle with. You know, it'll be like week 6 and they're still struggling with understanding what's going on. So what questions you have or what confusion do you have about this now?
I don't have any now, but I will later.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's use this, and instead of just logging a thing, let's go through and maybe see how do we make use of this? Like, how do we maybe start doing some of those homework challenges, right? So let's maybe do like, I'm going to change this so it's not sorted. Let's just do like -10, 100, 30, 45. Let's go through and let's use this for each loop to find the highest and lowest number. All right. So this won't be exactly, because in your homework, it's like do this as a function, but let's just do this as like not a function and just write it right here. So here's my array. I'm going to use a for each loop. And let me slack this out because I'm going to delete that stuff. So we can really just look at this. Okay. So let's first think about how we want to solve this just in English. So what's our strategy? Remember yesterday, I was thinking of this as like a list of, like, you could think of it like cards where these are flipped over so I can't see their values. I have to look at them one at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep track of the highest. I'm going to look through all of these. Items in array and keep track of the highest. Okay. So kind of describing this in English, it gives me a couple hints like, oh, I need the highest value. So, okay. This one's a little just kind of, might be a little bit of a trick, but I need a highest number. So I'm going to declare a variable, let highest value. Any ideas what I should set this equal to? I could just have this variable, maybe set it equal to 0, or like a really, it's It's kind of hard. I'm going to set it equal to the first thing in the array. Just assume that that first thing in the array is the highest number. And now I can loop through. Okay, well, let's do my nums dot for each. Do my anonymous function right here. No. Nums dot for each. And then I'm going to, because my for each wants a function that's going to have one parameter. Cool. So there's that. And what also you can also do is just do a console.log. As you're going through these, just maybe see that you have it set up, you know, that you can go through each thing. Sweet. I'm going through each thing. Perfect. And through each thing, I'm calling this function. Well, logging really doesn't do much. Well, this is where I want to, like, you know, or does someone want to, what do I want to do inside of this function? Can someone, maybe not in code, but can you describe what I should do?
I mean, we want to have the loop go through all of the numbers, right?
Yeah, so we did that part. This is because I did a console.log. No. Am I pulling up maps? Okay. Right. This is, I've done that part. I'm going through all of the numbers. I have that set up. Okay, but that's, so I know num is like, I'm going through that each time. I could also console.log highest value. And then let's console just to like show this. See, I'm going and doing these 3 logs each time. So, and I can even be a little, just so we can see this, like the num is. So with the console.log, you can give it 2 arguments. You can give it 2 strings separated by a comma. So this can kind of be nice just to like illustrate what's going on. So num is 10, highest value is 10. Num is 20, highest value is 20. Oh, well, that's already not right. But I'm going through and I'm able to log this. So, but that's not really, I mean, that's useful in showing what's happening, but what do I need to do now?
I think we need to take each, yeah, so as we're looping through, we need to compare each number to highest value. And if it's greater than highest value, then we set highest value to that until we get through to the end.
Compare, because this is what you need to be able to do. If you can't describe this in English, you're not going to be able to code it. So yeah, so we need, and that was a good, I think this is a good strategy. We need to compare each num to highest value. And then like if, and because a lot of the times when you describe this in English, it's like, you know, it'll kind of partly write some of the code. Like if num is greater than, you know, highest value, let's swap, you know, or like let's set, I'll just call it highest value to num, right? Cool, so compare each num to highest value. Let's do that. So that's an if statement. Okay. If num is greater than highest value. This is where we want to replace highest value equal to num. And then we could maybe throw this down here. So I can log my number. I'm going to just delete these comments. So when we start out, you know, the number is 10, highest value is 10. Cool. This probably would work if I just I might not even need to set that into anything. Actually, I do, because they'll be undefined. So I do set that just to the first thing, just to kind of get that started. So num is 10, highest value is 10. We don't switch. Num is 20. Oh, we better switch, right? 30, yep, let's switch. 40, let's switch. -10, nope, don't need to switch. 100, yes, let's switch. 45, nope. There we go. And there is, I can also get rid of these console.logs. Those are kind of not needed. And then you could just log it right here, console.log highest value. So this would be, because this would be the logic you throw in that function I gave you, because I gave you a function that was like const. I forget what I call it, find highest. This takes in an array. Did it just, I think it just takes an array. And then you need to do the logic. So what I could do is I could just copy and paste here. So I just copy and pasted this code in this function. What do I need to switch to make this work? There's two big things that I need to switch. One in particular. And this is more, now we're kind of talking about functions. Well, let me do this. Let me do find, let me just show you. So let's do find highest. I'm going to do an array of 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm finding the highest 4, 3, 2, 1. And let me do this right here so I can see it, console.log. So this is 100. That does not seem right. Why is that 100? I'll give you a hint. See how this ARR is grayed out, and as I hover over it, it says it's declared, but its value is never read.
You have to switch that to the num's value, or
yeah. Let's see if I make this nums. Oh, this is good. This is going to be a little confusing. Okay, so now this is nums. Well, this is my nums array right here, right? Is this still going to be 100?
yeah.
Okay. Some people, who thinks, so we got some yeses. Cool. I think that is a fair assumption. It's 4. So, yes, this is a great example. this is a concept, and I think you were all kind of wrong in assuming that it was 100, but I don't think your logic was bad because we really haven't talked about this. So remember, this is a function definition. You can kind of think of this thing as its like own little program. So when I call this nums, now this is the parameter. Now it's going to like, this nums now becomes what I pass it. So it kind of, in a way, it kind of shadows, it overcasts, like it not overrides it, but these no longer, since I declare this nums parameter here, that is no longer this. But if I change this to like nums with 2 S's, now that nums is that. Now I run this, boom, it's 100. So that is, I think the best way to remember this is when you define a parameter, that's going to like override any variable name if you have the same variable names. Like I have a nums here and a nums there. So that is going to take the precedence. I might not want to call this, I could maybe, instead of calling this nums, I could call this like number array. Or I could just call it numbers. And then I would want to use that instead of nums. And now that works. And then I could, if I wanted to pass nums here, then I could pass it. So yeah, here's where we're starting to combine some stuff. We have a function that has one parameter. And then in that function, we're doing our logic to go through each of those things, find the highest value, and log that value. What happens if I try to find highest and I do, like, I don't know, apple, taco, and zebra? What is that going to do? I mean,
undefined.
What?
Undefined.
So you're saying undefined? I mean, it might be a little bit of a question mark because I'm expecting, and I think undefineds might be a good answer. It might be like apple by default. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to have this one be like burger, just so it's not sorted. And then, yeah, like cheese. Okay, so let's kind of see what this gives us. All right, because this one, it's like I'm comparing strings now. I was kind of assuming this was, just going to be numbers. We can compare strings with the greater than and equal to. And what that's going to do, it's going to give us the biggest string, which would be like it's giving us zebra because zebra is like last in the alphabet. If I change this to that one, less than, it would give me apple. And then that would give me the lowest number. But yeah, I don't know. I would kind of not, I'm not really expecting this to work with strings, but it happens to work with strings because strings, we can use this operator. But let's just stick with numbers for now.
Can you select that out?
Yeah. So I'm going to delete. I mean, this would be pretty simple to switch just to the lowest number, but I just need to change one thing. But let's just write it again. So let's find the lowest number just to get some practice writing this. So I do and we'll do this in a function, find lowest. This is going to take some numbers. I'm expecting that to be an array of numbers. So we can do a numbers dot, or first of all, what do we want to do? We want to get our lowest. Set that equal to nums at 0, or not nums, but numbers. Now, right, so, and then what I could do is now I go through each of my numbers, and I'm going to call this function on them. So I'm going to look at each of my numbers, and I'm going to compare them. I'm going to say, hey, if my number is less than the lowest, then I can set the lowest equal to number. And then I can console.log lowest. And then I can find lowest nums. All right, so it's saying numbers is not a function. Let's look at that. And when you get these errors, sometimes they tell you exactly where they are and what they are. So numbers is not a function on line 5. Numbers is not a function. Can I ask, what is numbers in this case?
The parameter you set?
It's a parameter, but when I actually call it, when it actually throws the error, there's actually a type of data. What type of data is it? I think I heard someone say it.
Variable.
It's not a variable. If I were to do a console.log numbers, what would numbers be?
Should be an array, I think.
Should be an array. What array would it be?
That would be undefined, wouldn't it?
No. So I can, as the code is right now, like this lines 1 through 14, when I hit run, so this is once again what I would expect. So let me kind of show how I think about this and how the computer kind of goes through and like runs this code. So what your computer is going to do is it's going to go line by line and run this code. So we do line 1, let nums equal this. Okay, So that then stores that in memory. So now in memory, I'm going to have like this nums array living. And then we go down here to line 3 through 12. What does this? This does a very similar thing that it did up here. It creates this variable called find lowest, and then it kind of stores this function in memory. This does not call the function, right? It just creates this function and it stores it in memory. So it's now available to the program. So far, have we logged anything right? Even though I have 2 console.logs, would I see any logs if I ran this? No. And I can prove that by just commenting out line 14. So yeah, this program ran, it stored these 2 things in memory, and then the program stopped and now they're gone. So essentially this did nothing. So cool. So that's what it does first. And then we get to find lowest. So now I'm actually calling this function and I'm passing it an argument nums, which is this array. So it's essentially going, okay, boom. And then it calls this function. Sweet, then it goes, looks up that function. It goes, okay, let's call this function. So now it gets the numbers and now it can go through and do these lines of code. So we get here, so what is numbers going to be?
Um, 10 and then 20 and then 30 and then
Yes.
40.
In this case, numbers is going to be that array. So what is lowest going to be? On line 5, what is lowest going to be right here?
10.
10. Cool. And then we hit numbers because we're still kind of on this error. And then it's giving me this error. Numbers is not a function. So my question, well, what is numbers?
An
It's
array.
an array, right? I can't just, numbers is not a function, it's an array. But arrays have a dot for each function on them. That's what I forgot to put. So now we can go through each function, or sorry, through each number. And let's just try to go through this in our head. So the first time we go through this, what is num? So I'll just say like 1. First iteration. What is num going to be? Like if I did a console.log, what would num be?
Is it going to be 10?
Yeah, it's going to be 10. Okay, so, and we said lowest is 10, right? So is 10 less than 10? No. Okay, so then we go back and we go to iteration 2. What is num going to be now?
20.
20. Is 20 less than 2? No. Boom, so we go to iteration 3. We get 30. 30 is not less than that, so boom. We keep going, we go to iteration 4. 4 is 40, nope. Iteration 5, our number's -10. Is -10 less than 10? Yes, it is. So let's set lowest to number. So now lowest is -10. And then we go through iteration 6, and then our number is going to be 100. Is 100 less than -10? No, it's not. And then we go to 45. Boom. Our for each loop is done. So now lines, that's done. And now we log the lowest. And that's going to be -10. So that's what happens. So if I were to, even before I run this, like, okay, so what I would actually expect this to like log, I have one log here, so I'm expecting it to log that array And then we log the lowest, which we kind of went through, and I'm expecting that to be minus 10. So that's what I'm expecting lines 1 through 15 to log. And it blows up because number is not defined. So line 9, number is not defined. What is that error?
Does it need an S?
Does it need an S?
All the others are numbers.
Well, what's my numbers? That's my array, right? Do I want to set my lowest to the array?
I
No.
was wrong.
What do I want to?
Num?
What?
Num.
Lowest equals
Yeah.
num?
It was num.
Hmm.
So I either could have switched, if that was number, I could have either switched this to number or that to num. Since I'm calling this numbers, I think it's probably better to switch that one to number. I can call this taco. It could be whatever, like this is just a parameter. So when I go through this the first time, what is taco going to be?
10.
10.
It's going to be 10. It's just a name for it. Taco is a bad name for that. We want to name our things descriptive about what they are. So I'm going to call it number. All right, so let's go through and run that. I didn't save it. If I keep on running into errors, okay. Num, okay. So once again, same error, num's not defined. I need to switch it there too. And there we go. There's my logging the array, the numbers array, and there's minus 10. So now I can just, I can pass this any array of numbers. And so now I can go through any array, it'll log the array, and then find the lowest thing in that array. We hit on so many important points there. So let's take a break, kind of like maybe go away from your computer and let that kind of, whatever you got from that soak in. Because there's a lot going on here, right? There's a lot of these little fine details that make coding hard. So once again, it's describing what you want to be able to do just in English, and then being very specific with the code on how to do it. And that's a challenge. It's two challenges. It's first of all describing how to solve a problem. That can be challenging. And then it's also challenging to translate that your strategy to code. I want to talk about one other thing though before we do take a break. If you were to copy and paste this logic into your homework, it would not work. Why? Does anyone know why it would not work?
Just because of the tests have different names.
Let's say it had the same name. Let's actually, let's see if I can, what is the name? Let's say these names are the same. And I just copy and pasted. I went and took this logic, I copy and pasted it in there. Actually, let's do that. Because I think this one is pretty important to just wrap your head around.
The homework requests that we return the lowest number, not just find it and console log it.
Yeah, exactly. This is not returning anything. So if I set this to a variable, let value equal, let's go like lowest, and I'll get rid of this. So I'll say like let lowest value equal that. If I do a console.log lowest value, that is going to be undefined. Run that. There it is. It's undefined. Even though I'm logging it here, this is undefined. And you know, console.log, that's kind of why I've been avoiding it. I mean, it can be good to kind of go through it, but once you get to like a job, if you have like console.logs in your code, they'll tell you to remove them. You can use them for testing and like debugging, but you never want really console.logs in your code, in your production code. What we want to do is like, if we want to like find this value and then use it, we need to return it. So I go through, I find the lowest. Sure, I can go ahead and log it just to test, but really what I'm going to want to do is return it. And now I can like not log it. And now I can have this function return a value. And then in my code, I can then go use this value somewhere else. Like do stuff. If this just console.logs it, well, man, I can't really do much with that. So I want generally, not all functions need to return things. I'm not saying functions have to return things. I'm just saying a lot of times you do want them to return the value, and then you can use that value in your code. So that would be the one step to make that work in your homework. So you need to return that value. Cool. So yeah, we're getting into loops, variables, functions, conditionals. We're starting to put the pieces together. Cool, let's take a break. What time is it? We went a little longer, so I'll give you like a 15-minute break. Let's come back at 11:25. And I'll Slack this out too.